next segment, the panel discussion, we'll touch upon some specific areas. I now welcome our first panel, Doug Jennings, VP Data Analytics and Computational Intelligence at Lowe's Companies. In this role, Doug oversees the enterprise data management, business analytics, business intelligence, data engineering, and data science functions. Our second panelist is Akhil Vishwanathan, Vice President, International Technology at Walmart Global Tech India. In this role, Akhil provides leadership for the technology teams working on building solutions across e-commerce and store systems for all the Walmart international markets. Our next panelist is Rajiv Das Sharma, Distinguished Engineer, Cloud Computing and Product Innovation Head, Bangalore GDTC at Kimberly-Clark. With expertise in various technologies and spearheading the digital learning culture, Rajiv leads the APAC innovation by working closely with the APAC business. Our fourth panelist is Manish Basan, Senior Director, Product Management at Harman. With 19 years of experience in the technology space, in his current role, Manish is responsible for driving product strategy around connected solutions and enterprise voice AI experiences. This session will be moderated by Siddhant Rastogi, Managing Partner and Global Head at Zenov. I hand it over to Siddhant now.
Thank you, Ovia. So as you can see, we have a great set of panelists with us, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting set of round of discussions that we are going to have. Can I just request Doug and Akhil to please come on video? That will be wonderful.
Siddhant, my video is blocked, so you'll have to enable it.
Oh, okay. I hope you can, the team can work on that. Doug, how about you?
Same thing.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll just start off and hopefully we can fix this pretty soon. We have like a big bunch of overachievers and people who have spent decades in retail and a long time in technology. So maybe I'll just quickly start off with a short icebreaker set of questions, and maybe we'll start with Doug. Doug, I was just reading up, and then when we spoke last time, you seem to have had a very unexpected career progression, right? You qualified as and worked as a meteorologist and spent over a decade doing finance. And
Yep.
Now you seem to be driving a lot of technology initiative in Lowe's. You're looking at big data, you're looking at a lot of customer personalization, etc. So talk to us a little bit about these transitions, the journey, and maybe an example of how you kind of put all of this thing together to help Lowe's.
It is a very diverse background. A meteorology degree, worked in meteorology for 4 years, right? Which is rooted in data. It's rooted in engineering. It's rooted in math, right? And then the transition, obviously, to the business world, going back, getting my MBA, right, allows me to take that math and engineering approach and put that into practice. And had a long career in multiple companies, but mainly at Lowe's in finance, as you mentioned. And what I learned from finance is the output metrics. Financial metrics are really output metrics, right? And so one thing that I've been able to apply in the last 4 years leading the data and analytics function at Lowe's is really being able to marry up where data and an analytics solution can address a business problem to then achieve the appropriate outcomes from a financial perspective, right? And draw that lineage. Just like when you're in data management, we want to understand the data lineage from source system to where it's being consumed. The lineage between what actions and what analytics drive a decision or a business tactic then lead to on the outcome or the output metric of financials or lagging metrics of financials. So being able to then decipher what is important and prioritization of that work. So that's how I've kind of pulled it all together, and just also an innate curiosity to solve problems. It was really the consistent factor across all those.
So you're the one technologist who cannot be beaten down by the finance team.
Exactly.
Great. So we also have Akhil. Akhil, as you can see from his background, is from Walmart. Walmart, just for those I mean, we all know Walmart is big, but just to give you a sense of scale, it has about 11,500 stores. Is that right, Akhil? And like more than 300 million transactions that go ahead every week. And Akhil, you are responsible for the technology background, back end for everything, right? Almost all of it. I'm just intimidated by just thinking about it. What is your biggest motivating factor, and what keeps you jumping out every morning? And what's the passion that drives you in this digital journey?
Yeah. So, Siddhant, for to start off with, I'm not responsible for all of technology. It is just way too big and too many things to do in that. I lead the international technology teams here in Bangalore, and we support all the markets, all the international markets that we have outside of the US. And we work across e-commerce, and we work across stores technology, data analytics, and all of those facets. The answer to your question is basically in the question itself. It's the scale. Absolutely. Where else will you get an opportunity to work and build technology that you can use across 23 countries, that you can leverage in 11,500 stores and impact millions of customers? And the way we build technology is we try to build it once and leverage it across all the different markets and all the different countries. So it gives us scale, gives us opportunities and efficiencies that we want to leverage, be it something like a payment solution or marketplace, or even very recently, the apps that we built to register for COVID vaccination. All of these are things that we try to leverage across. And frankly, all of this ability and the chance to build something like this is a great motivator in itself.
Perfect, perfect. Great. So I'll move on to Rajiv. Rajiv, as you can see from his background, is from Kimberly-Clark. And Rajiv, you've been almost for decades with technology and tech services, almost a core product and technology person. And now you've made this shift into a retail company. And what is the key driving factor there? What are the key challenges and the key differences that you see in maybe working at multiple projects over a period of time to one particular company, one particular area, etc.? So your experience on that side.
Sure, Siddhant. And firstly, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this distinguished panel of speakers. So really appreciate that. To go back to your question, yes, I think over a period of close to 3 decades, I have seen how technology has evolved and the usage of technology has evolved from IT being like order takers and working more in a reactive mode, to IT working in partnership with business and driving some of the key business outcomes, right? Because today we see technologies like AI/ML, technologies like cloud, technologies like API, they need to be integrated with the business processes to drive the key business outcomes and the business results. So that is one big shift I have seen, that IT and business are at the whiteboard together, I would say.
Interesting.
And the second thing I would say is that, adopting a digital mindset, which is, if you really look at how technology was even 2 decades before, we had the standard front end, back end, middleware. I think everybody knows that, those famous 3-layer diagram. That has really evolved now. And we are talking about an unbelievable number of options, which leads to an unbelievable number of combination, which means that you really need to have people across the board who will spot for those opportunities. And when it comes to integration, probably that person will think API first. When it comes to deployment, that person will think, can I deploy it on a cloud, right, instead of putting it on a server? When it comes to looking at the data, that person is not thinking how can I create a report out of that data, but that person is thinking how can I interpret that data and take through different levels of data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, right? We know that,
Right.
4 layers. So I think that mindset is very important, I would say, which I'm noticing a big change. And the last thing I would say is, there has been much more focus on innovation, and therefore, and not only doing innovation in-house, but also connecting with the what I would call the digital ecosystem, which comprises of the startups, comprises of the collaboration with the some of the top universities and institutes. Uh, so these are the three major changes. I would say I have seen the differences.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Rajiv. Manish, you have been, and we've known each other, you've been a products person so for very long, right? And currently you seem to be specializing in solutions related to touchless retail. Can you give a couple of instances and use cases from your recent experience where you've helped your clients around these touchless solutions and the impact that they may have had?
Sure, Siddhant, and thank you for having me on this, and great to be part of this panel of distinguished panelists. So let me put some context around touchless retail first, and how we use voice, AI, video analytics, and many other technologies, to bring this to life. Touchless retail is all about eliminating human touch points in the customer buying journey. So why do we need to eliminate human touch points? The best example that comes to my mind, and the way I like to describe this is, imagine the relationship between Iron Man and Jarvis, right? So here is an assistant which is not a human, but can really do anything that Iron wants it to do, and now replace that with a team of 20 people sitting behind a desk and taking orders from Iron Man and trying to execute those orders. It will never be the same experience that we will get, or never be the same job that Iron Man will be able to do. So now, put this back in the retail context. When we are trying to eliminate human touch points, we are looking at areas ranging from product browsing, product discovery, virtual tryouts, payments, touchless checkouts, even shipping, delivery, or curbside pickup, and so on and so forth. There's so many new ways of engaging, and so many new touch points where we can engage with the customer. And of course, the pandemic has taught us, the importance of health, safety, distancing, and so on and so forth. It kind of brought a new dimension to this, but the trend was always becoming stronger and stronger even before the pandemic. So that is what we sort of latched on to, and using voice AI to bring touchless retail experiences to retail. We've been doing a lot of work in this space. I'd like to talk about one of the recent work we did, and this was a CES announcement for us. Is with a company that goes by the name of Atrix. So they're essentially in orthotics, custom footwear and comfort wear company, a very niche segment. They have these foot scanners in retail stores, typically in the footwear area. You go there, get your foot scanned. They do all sorts of 3D imaging, pressure sensing, and so on, and then tell you, what type of foot you have, whether it is flat, curved, whether there is any asymmetry, what type of footwear would suit you, and whether you need a different sole for the 2 feet. Now, in the pandemic context, they wanted to make these kiosks or foot scanners touchless. So here comes voice. You can operate this through voice seamlessly. But then it goes beyond that. Now, when you're forced to introduce voice, you think of, okay, what else can we do? How can we make it more experiential for the customer? Orthotics is a niche area. Not many people know about it. So what if people have questions? Can they ask, okay, what is in it for me? Can you tell me about my foot condition? What type of products do you have? And so on and so forth. And now that this scanner has your own data from your feet, it can actually use the data to give you personalized recommendations, right? So again, this is just one example, and it extends from kiosks and unmanned stores to pop-up stores to retail stores and so on and so forth. There are many ways in which we bring this to life, and yeah, so I think
Perfect.
that's what I wanted to share.
Great. So now that we've had the opening views from all our panelists, I'll just get into some more meaty questions. I'll start with an overall question specifically around the big transformation that we have seen, and retail by far, and we track about 18 industries. Retail by far has seen, I would say, the most amount of transformation and investment in the last 6 months, especially in the COVID period. Um, uh, we 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 believe that many retail companies would go down, etc. But we found them to be uncharacteristically very resilient, and not just resilient, they've also reinvented themselves significantly, something that we never thought was possible. So I just want to ask, and maybe we'll start with Doug and Akhil can add. Um, what have been the key initiatives that have been implemented across some of the important areas, right? It could be in store, it could be inventory at the back end, and very importantly, even customer experience, right? So if you could just talk about some of those, or some of the ones that you believe are the most important from your experience in your company also, that will be great. So Doug, maybe you can start first.
Yeah, I'll start. And you talk about the last 12 months has really been transformational from the standpoint of how consumers shop, right? And the expectations they have. And for Lowe's, fortunately deemed as an essential retailer, it's really changed customer trends, right? And how customer views the home, right? The home is now your office. It's now your restaurant. It's now your gym, right? It's now your school, right? And so a lot of investment going into the home, and how do we respond to consumer changing the way they engage with the home improvement retailer? A lot of north of 50% of journeys start online, so that hasn't changed. But really what's changed has been an accentuation of that, accentuation of touchless delivery, touchless pickup. So some of the things that we've invested in and really pulled forward some investments when you think about curbside pickup, right? Sounds simple, but to execute that across 1,700 stores, multiple, a wide variety of product from small to big and bulky. You think about touchless lockers. All right, we deployed touchless lockers in virtually no time across the entire chain that allows online orders to be picked up in store from just a scanning of your phone, and a door opens, you grab your product and go home. And so really what's been accentuated is really the demand online. So the things that we've invested in is migrating our .com from a legacy platform to cloud, which makes it much more reliable and scalable for the demand that we've had. But when you think about the customers, some things we've continued to invest in, you think about the pro business, right? For home improvement, we've got the DIY do-it-yourself customer, but we also have the pro. So one of the things that we've also done in the last year was basically reset each of our 1,700 stores in the US. So basically moving the product adjacencies to make it easier for the pro to shop, make it the products that the pro wants to buy, get those in very natural positions within the store for them to expedite their shopping journey to get them in the store, out of the store very quickly. So that's one of the things we've done with the pro. We've also instituted a pro loyalty program, right, that allows our pros to partake in various services to make it a frictionless shopping experience for the pro. So the pros coming into our store, also with the DIY customers. So different customer segments, how do you make it frictionless for that pro? So those are a few things that we've done in the last year. Some of them previously planned, and then some of them we pulled forward as a result of the pandemic. And of course, the personalization, right? And I could go into how personalization is changing and how privacy laws are changing, how that's those forcing mechanisms to think about first-party data collection and personalization differently. So there's a lot of things that we're investing in, a lot of things that we're looking at, and the pandemic has either accelerated or pulled forward some of those things, or just allowed us to really focus efforts and energies to capture that demand as customers really just accentuate how they purchase.
Got it. Perfect. Akhil, comments from your side on the same area?
Yeah, and as Doug said, Siddhant, it's a very similar journey that we've had. Walmart has been on an omni-channel journey for the last few years. It's not something that came in because of COVID and because everybody started working from home or just staying put at home. It's something that we've put in place for the last few years and been working on it. But the customer adoption, which we thought will take us a few years, and as Nikhil was talking earlier, has happened basically in 3 to 6 months, and that made a lot of things go faster, and we were able to turn things around faster also because we were on this journey. So it kind of helped us being where we were. Some of the examples, and if I can talk very quickly about one that was in the news very recently. Fast Company actually ranked Walmart as number 6 in terms of innovation, in terms of the companies that are innovating quite a lot. And the example that they actually gave was about this substitution feature that we created, right? It's an AI-based feature called as customer choice, which uses historical and real-time shopping data basically to collect substitution choices from the customer. So we figure out, we use the data to figure out, hey, which item inventory might go out of stock. So while the customer is ordering that, we give a choice of 5 substitutions and say, hey, if you don't find this particular product, this item is not available, which among these 5 will suit you? And then the customer chooses something. And then we are able to fulfill the customer needs, right? Immediately and without, and this is both win-win for us and also for the customer. And then we can also use this data to make more personalized shopping for the customer in the future. And the best part about this was this feature was developed in just a couple of weeks, and we prototyped and we were able to push it out in the pandemic as soon as we realized that this is what the customers are looking for. And a lot of things like this during the pandemic that we pushed out really helped. Some things like Doug had mentioned earlier, curbside pickup, very, very useful because we wanted to keep social distancing, or even contactless delivery at home. So we're saying that, hey, we'll just bring your package, you tell us, we're going to tell you what time we come, and we'll ring the bell, leave the box over there, and then we move and you keep it in quarantine and then open it, or whatever you want to do, right? Or we're saying, how do you make things ship faster? People wanted things in hours, not days anymore. They were like, hey, I need this tomorrow. That was what the case was. Now we're saying that, can I get it by 3 o'clock? Can I get it by 4 o'clock? So we were having dedicated pickers, and we ensured that there's some specific inventory that is there in the micro fulfillment centers that we opened up within the stores. And we predicted what is it that the customer would want in a faster period of time. We did express checkouts, we did express deliveries that we had done. And a lot of other things that we did, like from an omni-channel point of view, what we said is, hey, we try to ship a lot more from the stores rather than we do it from fulfillment centers, and that obviously helped us and helped us serve the customers quite better.
Got it.
So these are some of the examples that we've done, and we continue to do this. And then the best part about this is not for one country. These examples are valid across all the countries. And as the pandemic spread and as the lockdown went from country to country, we started experimenting and deploying this across many of the countries that we operate in.
Perfect. So Rajiv, I'll come to you with a different question, right? So we've all spoken about data, we've talked about data, uh, and then we believe that it's playing a big transformational, uh, it's of huge importance in terms of what it can contribute to specifically in retail, and the amount of investment that we have seen, amount of people that we've seen the retail companies hire in this space also is very large. But in your mind, what are like the top 2 or 3 use cases that have been very important, very effective from a deployment and a return on investment perspective in the retail area? And maybe if you can contextualize it to Kimberly, that would also be perfect.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No.
So firstly, it is very heartening to hear what Akhil has said about what Walmart is doing, because we work very closely with Walmart. And, our job is to use the data and understand the customer and make sure that when Akhil brings those customers to the stores, their shelves have our products, right? And to put it very simply. So understanding what the end consumer wants, uh, giving a very personalized experience to the consumer using data, which typically, we call the consumer 360 view. And if you really think about it, we have all technologies here. It's not a trivial problem to solve. because all of these organizations, these Fortune 500 companies, we have evolved, over a period of a long time, which means that there are so many different data sets, there are so many different data silos. So, combining all of that and coming up with a consumer 360 view is not a very trivial problem to solve. So that remains, the topmost use case, I would say. And if you really look at, we are also a manufacturing company. So we are manufacturing and CPG company, right? All these products that you are seeing here, we manufacture those, which means, supply chain efficiency is a very important part. So, what kind of data we collect from the supply chain, what kind of data we get from the market, based on the consumer needs, how we keep the supply chain very efficient. And COVID really tested us, right? Especially if you look at some of our products like Kleenex, they literally ran out of shelves. So that is another area, where we can use data to make supply chain more efficient, so that we meet those demands that the customers gives us. And then lastly, I would say that, even in the areas of marketing and sales, using a combination of the data and the AI ML and AR VR, how we can reach out to more customers, how we can give them there are use cases like where you can use a mobile device and you can predict or you can help the customer determine the size of the diaper for her child, right? And that is the most difficult customer to make happy, the child, the baby, right? So
And the mother too, I guess.
of course, that is she's number two. So I think those continue to remain our top use cases when it comes to how we can leverage data.
Got it. Doug, I'll quickly come to you on this one. And we all speak about pandemic as if that's the only disaster that mankind has ever seen. But I know you've talked about this before, and it's pretty interesting how you spoke about in different disaster events as well, how data has helped you plan better, fulfill better, and improve the situation on the ground for the people there. So do you want to share a couple of experiences on that side, Doug?
Yeah, there's a couple of use cases I like to share relative to that. And one is, and it goes back to what Rajiv was saying about having the product on the shelf, right? And so how do we take a lot of demand signals and leverage those demand signals at a product attribute level, clustered by stores, to really get hyper local on our assortment. So when you think about in a lot of large retailers, how you assort is based off of maybe how you buy, maybe how your merchandising organization is organized, and it's a big process, right? So how do we're bringing a lot more data to the table to really inform decisions on what we put on a shelf within a store cluster, the breadth and the depth that's required, right? And so that assortment optimization process, bringing a lot more data and intelligence into that, machine learning into that, to really understand implications of the shop, drop, keep decision, cannibalization, demand transfer, etc. So that's one use case, and so then that feeds ultimately into your demand. How does that feed into your changes into your demand planning, and then changing into your inventory flow and optimization through various nodes within your network? Ultimately, then how does that then tie into the store? So again, the second use case that we've brought to life, and we talk about quite a bit, and that is labor forecasting. And so the data science team has built a labor forecast engine, which runs daily, and we look at what is our demand going to be at a store department level within a day part, right? And then how do we display that in an easy, intuitive UI for our store managers, for our assistant store managers? And so how do we plan our labor such that we have customer facing associates on the floor when our customers are going to be there. And so two areas where we see, again, with traditional brick and mortar. So these use cases of traditional brick and mortar, right? Having the right product on the shelf for that location, right? You don't want a lawn tractor in an urban in central New York, right? But also having the right labor model and staffing components to meet the customer's needs at that point in time. So those are a couple of areas, and then the last one I'll talk to is really around space productivity and space optimization, right? Which also ties into the assortment planning as well. But how do we think about the space that we dedicate to various products, various assortments, and thinking about also the holding power of inventory within the store, whether it's in the racking, in the top stock, or whether it's in the back room, right? But thinking about the productivity of our space holistically, not just the shelf that you see, but the space, and how do you leverage that space in the store to generate the most revenue as possible.
Perfect. So Manish, you've been quiet for a while, so I'll maybe give you two questions back to back, right? The first one is, voice and AI. You spoke about it. You gave one example. How do you see the future of this, right? Where does this go from here? So that's one. And the second one that I want you to start off with is just discuss some of the scaling challenges, right? And I'll get Rajiv in as well, because we all love cool technology. That's how we are. Most of the technologists, engineers, etc. Unless, of course, you're Doug with a finance background. But again, so what are the scaling challenges? But first, the future of voice and AI and touchless, etc.
Sure, Siddhant. So again, voice and AI, the way we look at it is a means to an end. I mean, it has to be meaningful in the context of, let's say, a brick and mortar retail store. And if we go with the assumption or with the analysis that there is a segment of the population which is going to come back to the stores, and they're actually itching to step out and try out clothes and other stuff, and go shopping, really come out of their smartphone and go in the real world. What kind of experiences we can enable for them using voice and some of the other let's say augmented technologies that can really add value around voice, right? So maybe I'll pick one example and kind of see how we see this in future. So and this is actually a real world example. We've started to work with one of the companies in the luxury cosmetics and fragrance space. So skincare, hair care, all these type of products, and they're big a retail store chain across the world. Now, just imagine this experience where they were their whole retail selling model revolves around tryouts, right? You try out a moisturizer, rub it in your hand, see how it feels, rub it on your skin. You take some fragrance or perfume, just try it out, see if you like the smell, and so on. So there's a lot of trial and experimentation or exploration before you get to what you want to buy, right? Pre-pandemic, it was fine. You can, either someone can help you do it, or you pick up a bottle and do it. But now the way people look at this is it involves a lot of touching. So you won't want to do that, right? So that is the first element. That is very quickly. I know people are experimenting on how to get rid of that. So this company is kind of coming up with let's say hands-free sampling kiosks. So you just put your hand under the hood, and it'll spill out a few drops, and you can try out whatever product it has, right? So the keyword is product tryouts in a touchless way. But again, that's really just the beginning. If you now extend it, this is still not complete experience. It leaves a gap in the sense that earlier you were talking to someone who could talk to you about the product, explain how good it is, answer any questions you may have, and just gather your feedback also in general, right? So it was the whole product discovery and product marketing going on right there. So that's again the keyword which we have to introduce somehow in this experience, right? That's one more area where voice and conversational AI, of course, backed by the right data points, can add value. The third step is now this store associate can actually he's looking at you or she's looking at you, at your skin, how old you are, whether you have a dry skin or an oily skin, for example, and then give you personalized recommendations. Okay, this is what will go best for your skin, right? Now, if you have a conversation going on, with voice AI and having a camera doing skin analytics or age group and gender analysis, you can really make it personalized. Bunch of our panelists also talk about personalization in many different contexts. So this is one context where you can really make it personalized at a one-to-one level, and this technology is doing this. And then, of course, a store associate can offer you complimentary stuff if you're taking this. Moisturizer, why not try out this one as well, for example. So the knowledge of the product, the knowledge of the customer, ability to upsell, all these are elements of the experience where unfortunately the brick and mortar had been sort of lagging the online and the e-commerce channels. They have access to a lot of additional data points and can throw very targeted recommendations at you, whereas that was not the case with brick and mortar. So I think if the brick and mortar especially has to let's say stay relevant, I think great customer experience personalization is the way to go, and that's where voice AI backed by camera, video analytics, data at its disposal, with all these technologies will really play a key role in future, the way we look at it.
Got it. Your quick take on scaling, right? Or maybe an example of how you scaled one particular technology really well.
Sure. So I think again the secret to scaling is two things really. One, making it very, very contextual. And when we especially talk about experiences, every experience is different. I mean, like I gave a few examples. An experience like a Walmart store would be different than maybe a specialty or a single brand retail store, different from an online channel, and different from other categories like, for example, food ordering, restaurants, and there's so many other, let's say, offshoots of the whole retail ecosystem with similar experiences. So if you have to build scalable experiences, at least for a particular segment, the idea is to be really, really contextual, understand that domain well, and train the system for that particular domain and all the data and the knowledge around it. And then the other element is also real-time data access and integration with all the data sources, CRM, your real-time inventory check. So you have to have inventory data at your disposal, tracking the customer journey. People talked about omni-channel experiences, so online to offline. All these aspects have to really come together if this experiences have to scale from a 2-store or a 10-store pilot to really hundreds or thousands of stores or even online offline mixed experiences.
Got it. So on the scaling, I'll just take a quick take from I can't leave out Walmart from scale. So Akhil, your quick points on what do you think about before putting into or investing into any technology or use case, because you have to think about scale, and I'll get Rajiv in after that.
So Siddhant, scale is two parts for us, right? One is scaling horizontally across markets that we're talking about, and use it in one location. Can I use it in 20 different countries? And what does it mean in terms of internationalization and localization for some of the products that we build, if I look at it in that way? And the other scale is literally in terms of usage. I mean, when we're talking about a company the size of Walmart US, which is around $370 billion, and we're talking about 200 million customers walking in every week, and especially on e-commerce, we're talking about millions of users using it on a regular basis. So scaling is something that's also required from that. And last year, what really turned out for us is that we normally used to look at holiday season in Q4 and a lot of shoppers coming in, but with the pandemic, things changed quite a bit. Now we don't know when the shoppers are going to come and what are they looking for and how they're doing it. And the adoption of e-commerce itself is quite a lot. So what we do typically whenever we are looking at a new solution, we're trying to build something new, we look at one is, hey, how do I adopt it across all my markets? How do I build it in a way that it can get leveraged across, it can get scaled across? And then how do I build it in a way that one is from a disaster recovery point of view, everything is taken care of. And if I want to scale, then I scale it. And earlier Rajiv was talking about leveraging cloud. So that's something that's very, very important for us. And obviously trying to do microservices based architecture so that we can leverage in components in the way that we want to do it. So scale is really part of everything that we think of whenever we build something new here.
Perfect. Rajiv, your quick take on this one?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I will take a slight, take from a technology standpoint. And as we say, scale changes everything, right? You can write a small program and you can deploy a small program, a website, on a server, and then a million customers start hitting the server, and then you start thinking about, horizontal scalability and all that. So I would say, still, given the challenges, I would rate talent as the number one challenge, because we can design some great architectures, but unless that is backed up by the real talent, who can actually implement that, so that continues to remain the number one challenge. The second I would say is the architecture and design complexity that a scaling problem brings. For example, when we talk about cloud, many people think that, okay, this application is running on my server, let me lift and shift and put it on the cloud, and immediately it becomes it will leverage the auto scaling features of the cloud, and it does not work like that. You will have to architect and design your application to leverage the scaling features of the cloud. So that is another very important factor that people getting this architecture and design concepts. Also, distributed computing brings in a lot of additional complexity. Like typically we like to say, the CAP theorem, where consistency, availability, and performance, you can pick only two. Yeah,
interesting.
And it's a well-proven theorem, and we need to keep that in mind. So if you are struggling to create an architecture, which tries to follow the C and the A and the P, you are never going to achieve it, right? It is like one of those laws of nature.
So tips and tricks for the engineers to push back to their product managers.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third thing I would say is, once you have created such a system, I don't know if you have seen those pictures of the Netflix microservice universe or the AWS microservice universe. That huge spherical ball with hundreds and thousands of dots, each of them representing microservices. So how do you do the operations at scale, right? How do you find that needle in the haystack when something goes down, right? And how do you debug that problem, and how do you fix that problem in production? So these are the three things I would say remains from a technology standpoint, the challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. I think that was a very comprehensive reply, looking at all the different aspects, including talent. And I'll come back to talent. I think that's one area that most of us struggle with. So I'll just maybe do two more questions, and I'll first get Doug in. And I want to just look into the future, right? We've seen a lot of investments go in the last 6 months. I'm sure some of these use cases were just point in time. We will not see them continue, and they might not persist. But so, Doug, in your mind, what is the future of this whole retail store? Right? Is everything going to all like shift completely online? Is omni-channel the future, or will there always be place for physical brick and mortar, or it's only going to be in certain categories? Just your quick opinion on that one, and then I'll top it off and I'll maybe take all the panelists very quickly on this one question.
Yeah, I think it will still remain omni-channel. I still think there's a place for brick
Okay.
and mortar, especially in certain categories. And in the industry that we're in, home improvement and within the specialty, I think there's certainly going to be the role of brick and mortar. I think what happens to the stores, how does the store become more of the stage to really represent the brand, right? And how does that brand, people are going to be, I think people are going to be more attached, draw more affinity to a brand and what the brand represents from both what the brand represents externally, but also from an experiential standpoint, as much as versus in the past as it being a very transactional retailer. Okay, that's where I go to buy something, very traditional cash and carry. So how do you create a more customized, personalized experience, right? So blending the digital with the physical in the store, right? How do you co-create content, whether it's co-creating experiences, co-creating product, right? And I could see that as a way in which brands and retailers that create that stickiness from that experiential standpoint. And how do you leverage the store? And I can't remember who mentioned it. How do you leverage the store also as I think it was one of the keynotes, as a fulfillment location. So the store can play multiple roles. Is it the stage for the customer experience of what your consumers see as they engage with the brand? But then there's another aspect of your store that's a fulfillment location that is kind of behind the curtain of that stage. So I see it continuing as omni-channel, and the ones that are going to win are the ones that can really tie together the data, right, between the virtual and the physical, and really supply chain, I think, is that linchpin as well that allows customers to get the product however, whenever they want it.
Perfect. Akhil, your take on this one, the future of retail?
Siddhant, I think I agree with Doug. I think it's going to be omni-channel, and as I was mentioning earlier, this is something that we thought the future will look like, and we can continue investing in that. For me, physical stores will remain. Actually, physical locations will remain, and we leverage them as macro fulfillment centers, or we leverage them as pickup points, or there'll be situations where customers will surely walk in. I mean, we've got 300 million transactions, and we've got 250 million customers walking into a Walmart store every week, and we don't expect that to obviously go down to zero. So that's something that is going to continue for a long time. What we're looking at is creating a frictionless, seamless experience between e-commerce and stores, which our customers can use. For example, it shouldn't matter when they walk into a store, and even though we carry just 200,000 items in the store, but we carry 65 million on our e-com site. They should be able to walk into a store, use a kiosk, or use their phone and order something which is not in the store, and maybe get it delivered and pick it up there, or get it delivered at home, or vice versa, right? So we see the stores and e-com or online channels really working closer together, and omni-channel is where we think the future of retail will be.
Perfect. So I would really love the other two panelists to come on this, but maybe what I'll do is I see a couple of questions from the audience, and then one of the maybe I'll just take one question because we just run out of time. And Rajiv, since you touched upon this, I'll maybe go with you first. One of the key things that even we are noticing is how the whole world, especially from a digital perspective, is going to be supply constraint, talent supply constraint, right? There's not enough number of people who understand this technology, leave alone know enough to scale. And then you have an added complexity about domain, like say it could be retail in your case, which makes it a lot more complex. So how do you hire people like this? How do you even attract them here, especially in say, like say you are in Bangalore, and if somebody else is in the Bay Area or in many of these competitive locations, how do you even get people to join you, right? So any suggestions or things that have worked for you, Rajiv, on this side?
As they say, there is a war on talent going on. So should I share the trade secrets?
Especially, I thought Walmart is a good friend.
Rajiv, just the names of people will be enough. So
No, I don't mind Rajiv giving ideas also. Names of people combined with, where from you're sourcing and things like that.
Yeah, but yeah, but on a serious note, I think this is another area where we will have to be a little bit innovative and creative. And the way I look at it is, if you see digital talent, the way we say, um, you know uh, it has been there for the last 8 to 10 years, right? However, there is a certain amount of experience that people bring in when we are architecting systems at scale, like the way I'm saying. You will find people with 20, 25, 30 years of experience who have been building uh, architectures at scale, but maybe with different technologies, right? So it really depends upon at which layer you are trying to fill in and what kind of talent you want.
Hmm.
And I would say the range is, even working with the interns and students who are learning these new technologies in their colleges and universities. Like almost every college and university today offer curriculums on cloud computing and AI/ML, right? Both undergrad and postgrad courses. Collaborating with the universities on specific projects.
Hmm.
Then I would say leveraging the startup ecosystem, have a because for many of the use cases you might find 60% of it has been solved by a startup, and you just need to solve the rest 30 to 40%. It is not like the old days of you have a job description and you get resumes and you interview and you get the right fit. I think you will have to look at what the problem I'm going to solve and what are the skills that I need, and these are my sources, and this is how I'm going to leverage. I would say it's another architecture and design problem.
Perfect. Good. So I'll get Manish in, because I think Manish, you're in the business of creating talent at scale. So any inputs on how best you try and do that? That'll be great. And I would like to end with Doug as well, because I'm sure he himself from diverse background would have had some innovative ideas on hiring interesting people into the team. So I'll end off with that. So Manish, first with you, and then with Doug.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe I'll pick from where Rajiv, talked about, collaborating with other players like startups, etc. So I think we have to divide this into two parts. One is, what is it that we can do or we want to do ourselves, and where we want to leverage the ecosystem. I mean, these are vast, vast technology areas. There is no way we are going to be able to build everything on our own. So, the approach that we take, of course, focusing on the, really the technologies where we excel, and the ones where we want to contribute ourselves, and then finding the best talent in those areas, of course, leveraging the Harman, brand name, and the kind of scale and opportunities that we offer. But at the same time, we're always on the lookout for really great ecosystem partners, who can add value and bring capabilities that that can complement our solutions, and that's how it gets built overall for us. So yeah, I think that's probably the most
Perfect.
sensible way to doing it for us.
Perfect. Doug, any comments from your side?
No, the only thing I'll add is we're going through a transformation at Lowe's in our technology organization, where in the past it was packaged solutions, integrated, stitched together, customized, right? And then anytime you make a change, it's okay. You got to pull that. It takes 3 months to change something on the homepage, right? Just not flexible, not dynamic, not scalable. And so we've moved to more of a microservices architecture, more building internally more of the microservices. And so really, how do we, so from a talent perspective, we want to continue to kind of seed our team with really, really good problem solvers I think at the principal level, whether it's a principal data scientist, it's a principal software engineer, someone that can come in and really understand very quickly what technologies is best for the job, right? You know what your architecture is, but what tech stack, what technologies do you want to use, and do quick POCs, quick learning, right? So a thirst to learn, a thirst to continuously learn. Is it Spring Boot or is it Micronaut for the situation, right? It is really that aptitude and attitude to learn. And I think, you know, architecting the solutions in such a way that it is scalable, right? And our CIO will talk about kind of like a Lego blocks, right? In the past, if you wanted to change out a window or a door on a Lego house, in the past we'd have to like break down the whole house and rebuild it, right? And so, you know, simple solutions to complex, you know, people that can find a simple solution to complex problem. There's a lot of people that can find a complex solution to a complex problem. And then again, how do you make technology, you know, people that want to have a thirst to make technology very intuitive, right? Very transparent to our associates and to our customers, right? The technology shouldn't be hard to use. So from a talent perspective, whether it's internal talent or third-party partners, that's kind of the approach that we take at Lowe's.
Okay. Wow, thanks. Although I'm really tempted to, have at least one question more, but I'm already off time, and I've got real nasty pings from the team. So thank you so much.